Here we go. Hello everyone and welcome to Fistful of Feminism. My name is Monica and today I want to talk about the racism in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. What? But Monica, Tina Fey, the producer of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, she's totally a feminist. Yeah, it's a show about how powerful women are. And like the title of the show says, they're unbreakable. Monica, there is totally diverse casting in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, especially with Titus Andromedon. And either way, it's a satire. Calm down. I hear you. And all your whats. But just because we might view something as feminist doesn't necessarily mean that it's automatically intersectional. Just because someone is making racially insensitive jokes doesn't mean that it's automatically a satire. Just because a TV show has strong female characters and some of its writing is commendable, we can't excuse the racism that is written in under the guise of comedy. Because if your comedy relies on broad racist stereotypes, whitewashing, and a constant othering of people of color, it's not comedy and it's not funny. All it is a steaming pile of white feminism. And I want to be really frank and honest here. When the first season came out, I liked the show. I thought it was funny, I thought it was even satirical in some places, and Titus Andromedon was my favorite person on the planet. But as I mentioned in almost every single one of my videos, feminism is ever-changing and always needs to be intersectional. As I learned more, I realized more, and I realized that I needed to be accountable for what I thought was funny at the time. Which brings me to my first point on why Kimmy Schmidt is so awful. Number 1. Tina Fey and her refusal to be accountable. So you may have heard that Tina Fey is not going to apologize for her art anymore. She's made her views on the internet and, as she calls, outrage culture very clear in multiple interviews. She is quoted with saying, "The internet was in a whirlwind, calling it racist, but my new goal is not to explain jokes. I feel like we put so much effort into writing and crafting everything, they need to speak for themselves. There's a real culture of demanding apologies, and I'm opting out of that." Girl, you need to educate yourself on white feminism. Tina Fey's refusal to be accountable to the racism that's written into all of her work and her show just underlines a bigger problem of white women in the film industry. Tina Fey's work positions white women as the baseline, as the neutral, normalized woman figure. She then erases and minimizes racialized individuals down to stereotypes as only seen through the gaze of the white woman. She says females are strong as hell, but I'm gonna say that this is problematic as hell. Point number 2. Native Americans are just white now, right? The whitewashing of Native American characters on Kimmy Schmidt is some of the worst representation I've seen on screen in a very long time. While the parents of Jacqueline are prominent Indigenous actors played by Jill Birmingham and Sherry Foster, this does not excuse the fact that a white woman was cast to play a Native American woman running away from her heritage and trying to become white. Subsequently, the character knows little to nothing about her own culture. It's painted with such a brush that makes it seem like all Native Americans are the same, and there are constant jokes about Native Americans through the gaze of a white woman. To top it all off, for some scenes, they put the white actress in darker black-brown contact lenses and browned her skin. Yes, I can see that this was an attempt at social commentary, talking about the extremely poor treatment of Native Americans in the context of a colonized North America. I can see the attempt of trying to say that white people do not understand the devastating effects that colonization had on these lands and are generally pretty clueless about it when they're not checking their own privilege and not learning about things outside of their own bubbles. But the constant comedic use of the term Turtle Island, plus the addition of brown face, just makes it so that this is probably the worst attempt at trying to understand the effects of colonization and the lives and representation of Native Americans. This Speaking of representation, here is my final and third point for today on why Kimmy Schmidt is a piece of shit. Number 3, because Asians are just hilarious by nature. Dong Nugent, Kimmy's GED study buddy and love interest. An illegal immigrant from Vietnam, he spends much of the show hiding from the authorities under the name Richard Pennsylvania. That's the character summary from Wikipedia, and can you say stereotype? I'm sorry, all Asians are illegal immigrants and are forever foreign. Check! A first name that is supposed to be hilarious because it sounds like a slang word for penis in the English language, and all Asian languages are pretty much the same and hilarious sounding, right? Check! Kimmy's study buddy, because apparently all Asians are smart because it's just in our, DNA. As similarly said in an article entitled "The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt Has a Major Race Problem" article that I've linked to down below, Dong's entire character arc is just outdated and ridiculous. And this isn't the first time that we've seen horrible representations of Asian folks within Tina Fey's work. Remember the only Asian women in Mean Girls? You know, the slutty girls from Vietnam who slept with the gym coach? Or even better, how about the Asian women who were nail techs in the movie Sisters with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler just out recently? Tina Fey, what the fuck is your deal with Asian women? Have you ever met any of us? Have you ever bothered to talk to an Asian woman about her own representation on screen? You ever talk to Asian people? Ever? Or, I'm sorry, are you scared that they don't know enough English like you? Your portrayal of Asian folks in your work has got to be some of the most racist bullshit I have ever seen in Hollywood. So thanks, Tina Fey. Of course, this leads into season 2 of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which I watched pretty much only to make this video. Here's a little summary of the episode Kimmy Goes to a Play. So Titus puts on a one-man show as his geisha former self, Murasaki. Now there's a red flag already because geisha are often represented as sad, as waiting on white men, Asian women who are mourning and submissive. Not to mention that Titus puts on full geisha makeup and really inappropriate drawn-on Asian eyes. So this causes outrage on an Asian American message board who label Titus as one of their top 5 Hitlers of all time. Yeah, this just keeps getting better and better. So Kimmy then sees what the internet is capable of and invites the members of the message board to see the one-man show. After the show, the members have seemed to be enlightened, and they apologize for their outrage. So basically what I got out of that is the message is, hey, Asians pretty much don't have a right to determine your own representation, so you should probably just not be mad about it and calm the hell down. Thank you, Tina Fey, for race-splaining all of that to me. Yes, this was an example of cultural appropriation. Titus claimed that he really was Murasaki, and that was what determined that it was okay for him to put on basically yellow face and fake kind of drawn-on eyes to be Asian. Stripping the meaning and value of any culture for the purposes of any kind of personal gain from a culture that is a culture you do not belong to is appropriation, and it's racist. And I also want to locate this in something that's bigger. The fact that historically, Black populations and Asian populations were systemically set against each other, as North American Asian migrants and settlers were constructed as the model minority. They were hardworking, obedient, they got the job done. This racialized propaganda of the model minority was used against Black populations. So in turn, there was probably, of course, some internalizations of some of these racialized myths. That Asians are forever foreign, but they're almost as good as white people. They're like the next tier down. So if you work as hard as Asian people and try and be as smart as Asian people, then you can fit in and blend into the population. And then the myths that Black people are lazy, that Black people are just constantly complaining about racism, whereas if they worked as hard as Asians, then racism wouldn't be something that happened to them. Do you all see how fucked up this is? This episode clearly overlooks this history of horizontal racism and actually recreates it. I'm so sick of white women thinking that they can write in accurate Asian representation into their work and into their shows without actual Asian voices. At this point, people aren't even trying. People are just running with the racist joke and knowing that it's gonna fly with the millions of white people that still think that Asian populations are the butt of the joke. So, these are just a few things that make Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt one of the most unbearable Netflix originals that I have seen in a very long time. Like I said, when season 1 hit, I totally thought I was a fan, but I was sorely mistaken. But in this situation, I'm happy to be mistaken. I am happy to be accountable to the fact that I thought that some of this was funny, and now I realize that it really, really wasn't. Tina Fey, you need to be called out. And so do I. But that's the point. Be called out, listen to that criticism, and be more intersectional in the future. Although I do not have high hopes for Tina Fey. So, in short, racism is never funny. It's systemic violence that upholds a system of white hegemonic state formation. So Kimmy Schmidt, if you're a TV show that's going to be around for any longer than a season 2, you need to step up your game. Or be canceled. I'd be okay if it was canceled. And on that note, I'm going to end it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been a video that's been a long time coming, and like I said, I watched season 2 solely to make this video so that I knew what I'd be talking about when it came down to it. I only brought up 3 major broad points about this show that is extremely problematic and racist. I would love to hear your thoughts on the rest that's wrong with the show, because believe me, there's a lot. So leave a comment down below about what you think is the worst part about this show, or maybe something you didn't realize was racist before. Now you're starting to realize that maybe it is racist. That's okay, we're all being accountable here. Leave a comment down below what you think. As always, if you like, you can subscribe and go there and da-da-da. I will see you all not next Friday, but the Friday after that. Also, because this is going to go up after Star Wars Day, may the 4th be with you. Okay, bye!